What's going on, collectors? This is Uncanny Derek Comics. In this video, we're going to go through some of my favorite comic books that I have in my collection that are not the major expensive ones. They're just really cool books, so stay tuned. And of course, if you like what you see, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe down below. Doing that keeps me going here on the YouTubes. So I have a little stack of books here that are some of my favorite books that I have in my collection, and I just want to share them with you all. Because there's really no videos I can think of that may be like, oh, let's talk about this one. So anyway, without further ado, let's just get right into it. I have Star Wars number 40. And this is a newsstand edition. And why I love this book is I grew up on Star Wars. I loved Rogue Squadron. I read the stories. I read the expanded universe stories before it became Legends. And I wasn't big into the comic books when they came out, but I am now. I'm big in the comic books now. But this here is important because it's the first appearance of Rogue Squadron. And Rogue Squadron, if you're a child born in the late 80s like me, you probably played the Nintendo 64 Rogue Squadron. You probably, if you're into Star Wars, of course, and I read all the Rogue Squadron books. Wedge Antilles is my favorite character. So the first appearance of Rogue Squadron in this book is a big deal for me, and that's why I love it so much. It's pretty much near mint. I love the book, and it's newsstand again, so just scarcity of those in good quality is tough to come by. So when I saw that show up at my local comic book store, they brought a copy in. I jumped right at it. My next book here, it's an oldie. It's Amazing Adult Fantasy. This is number 8, and I need to upgrade the bag here. It's a little wrinkly. So this book here, it's a low grade. It does need a good press and maybe a clean. The spine roll is pretty intense on it. You can probably see in the video here how you can see the pages are obviously yellowed. But I like this book because it is a Steve Ditko book, for one. Also, it's because this book eventually he turns into amazing fantasy. So they drop the adult word, and by issue number 15, it becomes amazing fantasy number 15. And you may know that as the first appearance of Spider-Man. So this is part of... I like this book because of historically what it means for the comic book world. But I also like horror books, as I have mentioned in many videos before. But I also like that it's a Ditko horror book. And it's not like true horror, like a Golden Age horror book. It does follow the comic book code of authority. I was looking at the little label there. But it's just a really cool book for me to have in my collection because I just love horror. I love Ditko, and historically, this Amazing Adult Fantasy, Amazing Fantasy 15, Spider-Man, it's a big deal. So this book is just great to have for myself. Next up here is, you've probably seen this in my intro video, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs number 1. So this is by Epic, and Epic was a subsidiary of Marvel. And growing up as well as Star Wars, I love dinosaurs. So Star Wars, dinosaurs, whatever. Then they had the cartoon show of this that didn't last too long, but I watched that show on repeat all the time. And when I found out it was a comic book, I had to jump at it. So I got this book a few years ago. This is from 1990. But I picked up the book, I think maybe, 2 years ago. And it's the first issue of Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. There is a version before it that exists, not through the Epic label, but those are... I've never seen one in the wild. I haven't even seen one, I don't think, online ever for sale. It's just, they're that rare. But Cadillacs and Dinosaurs number 1, just the absurdity of it all, the Cadillac traveling back in the past to be in the world of dinosaurs. It's it's just such a cool book. I love it. Of course, up next, I have another oldie, Strange Tales. This is number 83, and this is the first appearance of Grog. And, this is one of those weird books that, much like my Journey into Mystery up there, that's the prototype Hulk. This is the prototype Fing Fang Foom. This is a Jack Kirby, and I believe it was a Larry Lieber story. And... this is just, when I picked up this book, I was like enamored because I love Fing Fang Foom as well. But knowing that this was somewhat of a precursor, like he's not the precursor to the Fin Fang Foom. Stylistically, he looks like it. Fin Fang Foom came out a few issues later. I don't believe it was Strange Tales, but probably should have researched that before I started here to record, but here I am. And anyway, I just love the monster books too. So I'm a big fan of like the Godzilla movies and all that stuff too, like the old Godzilla stuff and new. So I like the idea of this giant lizard attacking things, and this is kind of within the realm of the Godzilla, the horror, all the fun stuff. And so this book showed up. It's mostly in good grade. There's obviously a lot of spine stress on it, and unfortunately I don't know if this will show up in the video, there is some tape that is on the top there that yeah, it's right over the 83. It's a little, you can probably see it's slightly stained. It's that's the never use Scotch tape or any type of clear tape to cover up seals on your books, because that tape oxidizes and it will stain your book. Please never use tape on your comic books. I digress. Strange Tales, good book. It's grog. This next book is super rare, and it's relatively new. It's actually from 2010, even though the cover says 2008. It is Scott Pilgrim 4-Color Odds and Ends 2008. And this book here was an anthology book that Scott Pilgrim author Brian Lee O'Malley did, with a bunch of short stories that never made the stories never made into the main series, but there's just a series of other like offshoot stories in here. And the reason why this book is so rare is because it was only available online to purchase at Oni Press, which is the publisher of the Scott Pilgrim books. And so I actually found this at a con, I'm going to say 8-9 years ago, and it was there for like $5 Canadian. So I saw it pop up, and like, that's a rarity. It's not like it's a crazy expensive book, but it is an extremely rare book. And so when I saw it, I had to pick it up, and it's practically mint condition. It's a pretty tough cover. There's a slight bend in the... Again, I don't know. Yeah, you might be able to see a little bit there. You might that's not the bag that's bent there. That's the book, and that's because this is a heavy, like, not cardstock cover, but it is a heavier cover, so it does show the imprints a little bit more. So yeah, just a really cool book to have, and I just love the color scheme. It's so pastel. It's just a really cool book. And it's I don't know when I'll ever talk about this book on this channel, but I just wanted to show it off. So here it is. Next up is actually, this book is from my very first video on this channel that isn't the intro video. This is Airboy Comics number 5. And I picked this up, obviously, this year, if you've seen that video. And it is a Dave Stevens cover. And this book is probably at 8.59. This is from 1986. And if you're all familiar with Dave Stevens books, you're going to know that this book is hot. Not only this book, but all Dave Stevens books are hot. I don't know what's going on in the world right now, but good girl art from the Golden Age is taking off, as well as especially Matt Baker books, which I talked about in my Golden Age video a while ago. And Dave Stevens art is just taking off as well. And Dave Stevens is arguably the great good girl modern comic book artist. And I really wish there was no glare. I got to figure out a better setup here to show off these books, guys. So yeah, Airboy number 5, this Dave Stevens cover, just awesome, gorgeous artwork. Yeah, I've always enjoyed this. And again, this is an homage to Air Fighters Comics number 2 from like 1940. Oh, I can't remember. It's in... If you look up my, if you look back at the old video when I first got this, which was my Cap Can unboxing video, I explained the history of this book a little bit more in there. Fred Kita cover. All right, so Airboy Comics number 5. I got 2 more books. It's going to be a quick video, but I just wanted to show off some of this stuff. And this next book is another weird one that, again, I don't think I'll ever talk about. But this is the only, well, second only X-related book that I'm going to have, X-Men related book, that I have. But it's a Hulk book. It's Hulk number 150. And it says, Cry Hulk, Cry Havoc is the title. And this is a book... I forget, I think it was 1973 this book came out. So it was before X-Men 94 and Giant Size X-Men. And it was after the X-Men comics got canceled after issue 66. And this is kind of an abridged story, it kind of shows what happens to Havoc and Polaris, and they're off living in their own little world in the desert. And in the end, it's Havoc versus the Hulk, and Iceman eventually convinces them to rejoin the team, whatever reason. It's weird because there's not a lot of context in behind here, because like Iceman isn't with the X-Men. Like, because the X-Men aren't around anymore, so it's a weird story, but it is an interesting bridged story for where those characters are. So again, Polaris and Havoc, smack dab in the middle between the cancellation of X-Men and the reboot of the X-Men. This is their story in here, and I just like this book because it has that bridging of the characters and letting the readers know that X-Men are still around, albeit using the more obscure characters like Havoc and Polaris. And this book itself is, I grabbed it at my local comic book store again. They have this one. It's a pretty sharp looking cover. There's a little bit of spine stress again. Well, many old books like this here would have it. But yeah, it's a Hulk book that features the X-Men and also explains more history of what happened to some of these X-Men, which you wouldn't expect from a Hulk book, right? Like, it's great. Lastly is probably one of the ugliest covers for one of the most important things that X-Men characters that exist. It is King Size Avengers Annual number 10. And if you don't know, this is the first appearance of Rogue. And this book here is just a mess. I mean, the cover itself is just a mess. Everybody hates this cover, but they love the book for what it is. This is one of those covers where, like, it's a Golden Age-esque book where it's just like, here's these different stories that you're going to see in the book, but it's a silver... Actually, no, this is a modern age book. It's from the 80s. So it's weird that it has this, like, Golden Age homage back to it, and you have a lot of insanity going on here. So you have the Cap story going on with the Avengers, Iron Man. You got the Brotherhood showing up here. Rogue is on the cover, just her head there. So, like, but you can't really tell it's Rogue. And she looks a lot different in this book too. And then you have Spider-Woman and of course the X-Men versus Avengers here. It's written by Chris Claremont, so you get all that lovely X-Men story in there. And if I'm not mistaken, the story too, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure this is where Carol Danvers, Ms. Marvel, is like, yo, Avengers, I'm leaving you guys. I'm joining the X-Men because they care about me more. And so this is just another great book. Yeah, it's first appearance of Rogue, who's obviously a big heavy hitter, no pun intended, for the X-Men. Yeah, the quality of this book isn't the greatest. I mean, I do have a lot of again, spine stress. There's a little bit of chew on the cover there, and there's a little bit of a fold here that does break the color on the top there. I don't know if I can show you that. Yeah, you can kind of see it there. I gotta figure out a better way to do this. But yeah, that's King Size Annual Avengers number 10, first appearance of Rogue. So those are some weird comic books that I have in my collection that I just felt like showcasing. So I'm sure you guys have some comic books that you have that are weird one-off ones. Like, I really like that Hulk one, because that one really does... I find that is such an oddball book that has such a profound impact on the rest of the Marvel U, especially in the X-Men. That's just like, here are these characters that you haven't seen since the cancellation of X-Men. Remember them? Well, they're back. They're doing their thing here. It's just really cool. So I like books that are like one-offs like that help you bring in those. And obviously Havoc and Polaris are big players now in the X universe. Do you guys have any books that are similar like that? I'm always interested in books that are like that. So let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and see you guys soon.